They're about, I think, a 225 a bar. Yep. Any questions on that? How are we going for time, Derek? Okay, that's right.
What are the standard bars, John?
Pardon?
Like in
There's a 916 bar, a 38 bar, and then a parallel half-inch bar.
yeah. So what are the standard ones come out as?
The bigger one is the
bigger
standard
one.
one. Yeah. That's what you'd use on a 91 Van Diemen. One of these, same.
Yeah.
So if it's sort of greasy, half wet, half dry,
Yep.
quite greasy, what you'd use, what
You'd probably use the medium bar. The medium bar.
There's a tapered one.
The tapered one, yeah. The middle one there is thinner at the top. So this is half-inch down to 916. This is 38 down to 916. And this one's completely parallel at half-inch. That's the front one. I'll just put it on.
Because I find the greasy conditions probably the hardest.
Greasy conditions are the most challenging, yeah. How do you know when the track's wet? Is a good one.
I'm in the grass.
You can't see the guy in front of
Sitting
you.
in your car and half the track's dry and half the track's wet. How do you know which is the wet bit and which is the dry
You
bit?
can see it.
What colour is the wet bit?
Wet, but it's dark.
Yeah, the wet bit's black and the other bit's
Yeah.
grey. Yeah,
It's like wind on the water.
yeah, a bit like that.
Or green.
Or green. Yeah.
It's grass.
Okay. We'll just move on to shocks just very quickly before we move into the next page. Shock absorbers obviously go up and down, and they go up and down in different directions. So which way does the shock go if we're trying to describe the bump function of the shock? It gets shorter? Okay, so that's the car going down. Okay, that's good. Rebound, pretty obvious, coming back up. So what's the difference between high-speed bump and low-speed bump? Some of you guys have got three-way shocks, some don't. In my opinion, we shouldn't have them, but that's the way
I
it is.
never really understood.
Low speed would be entering a corner, rolling into it, and high speed would be judder over a bump.
Okay, so there's two parts to this, and I'm just trying to make the distinction here. High-speed bump is something which is relatively common in the modern world with a three-way shock. High-speed rebound is not that common. It's more of a four-way shock function, and it's not that common. And to be perfectly blunt, it's quite hard to understand why you would need to adjust it. You need to be a bit of a shock guru to be able to get into that side of it. It's probably a bridge too far for what we're doing. But the main things are just to understand that if somebody says the bump in my car is very soft, then it means that the car's going to go down easily, and if the rebound's soft, it's going to come up quickly. So the spring controls the pressure it takes for the car to go down, and the shock controls the time it takes to get there. Okay, so the shock is what they call it, is a damper. So it controls, you can wind the bump adjuster up and you can climb on the car and it'll go down slowly, but it'll go down with the same weight but just at a different speed. And the same goes for when it comes up. So you get the car on the ground, right down on the ground, before you were standing on it, on the ground, and if you've got the rebound wound right in hard, you jump off it and it'll just come up slowly. And it's a very common mistake. People with the more complicated shocks, they keep winding the rebound up, and what happens is you go down the straight and you're going over all these bumps, dunk, 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 and the car just jacks itself down, down and down and down, and by the time you get to the end, the wheels aren't on the ground because the skid's hard on the ground. And there's been a lot of people who had a lot of quite big accidents like that. Something to be very careful of. I mean, the shocks have got more than enough capability to just lock it there. The next bump it goes over, it locks it down again, and there's not enough time for it to come back up to right height again.
Why would they be increasing that?
Why? They have the function there because they don't know necessarily what rocker ratios are being used. So they make the shocks so they've got enough adjustment to do that. And I mean, the function of rebound in the shock, it's quite good to jump on the car, jump on the brakes, get the car partially turned into it, and then the car be held down because it increases the rake of the car in the middle of the corner. and then when you climb on the throttle, you can adjust when it's going to get back to ride height. So you use that adjustment to adjust where the car's going to come off the turn and not be too understeery. So as you go back to the throttle, you go put your foot on the throttle. Sometimes you'll know, you've all driven cars that are understeery, you'll go 1, 2, 3, 4 stabs on the throttle and it's come on, come around, you go on the throttle. Well, that rebound control will take what could be one or two stabs in the middle of the corner and move those stabs further around the corner so you can get on the power a bit earlier down the straight. And that's what you would use the rebound for, to try and move the understeer around the corner.
By stiffening it, because it's going to slow the rate that it comes back up again.
Correct.
But there's consequence or risk on a very bumpy track like the back straight or the straight here at Ruapuna.
Perhaps exaggerating a little bit, you can overdo it very easily. So, I mean, you'll probably see when we get upstairs on the shock dyno, you'll be able to see 1 or 2 clicks can make quite a big difference, depending on how the shocks are valved. But we're just trying to give you a bit of an overview as to those things. So the main ones really is the bump, the rebound, and the high speed bump is something which makes the car very firm, because when you hit a bump, you can control what's going to happen if you hit it, and it's a big bump. So you can have the high speed bump set quite softly, so that if you hit a bump, the wheel will go bang and come back again, and won't lurch the car. Like a curb, yep. I mean, back in the late 90s, when Penske started to develop this high-speed bump arrangement, they had what they called blow-off valves in their shocks. They still do, and they're basically like a relief valve. So you could be, the shock might be working at, let's say, 80 metres per second as it's going down the track, just for the sake of a number. And you go over a curb and all of a sudden the wheel sees 250 metres a second. So what's going to happen? Either the valves are going to shut off and the car's going to leap in the air, or the blow-off valve's going to blow off at 240, or the blow-off valve's going to blow off at say 100, and the wheel's going to go pop, back down on the ground again, the car doesn't move. And you see that if you ever watched a video of an off-road buggy where the shocks are going like this all the time. They've got a lot of high-speed control, and what they do is they allow the shock to move easily at those high velocities, but have control of it when it's going slowly. I mean, it's a whole science in itself, and it's something that most of us would rather just have 2 knobs to play with, or no knobs, how it used to be. All right. Any other questions on shocks just before we move on?
Just what are the rules with shocks with Formula Ford? Are you allowed, what are you allowed, 3, 4? What?
3 ways on class 1,
Yep.
2 ways on class 2.
Yep.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, it's becoming a bit of an issue because they're not producing shocks. They're not producing the shocks that we used to be able to use, and there's certainly very few people repairing the old Bilsteins and stuff. I do have a guy that can service those old Bilsteins, and they're very, very good shocks. And if I was running a class 3 car, I'd just put a set of Bilsteins on it and have them serviced and go. I wouldn't even worry about it. They're fantastic. Okay. We'll just move on. Well, firstly, are there any other questions on what we've covered so far? And what I was going to do is just quickly go through what we've talked about and what and how we would adjust them.
Well, just a very quick clarification. With the slow rebound out of the corner,
Yep.
you were talking about weight transfer forward with the additional rake, and that's what's helping you understeer, right?
Yep. So the more rake you can have induced in the car will help the car turn in. Yep. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else? Okay.
Say it again, the more rate.
What I'm talking about, the induced rake. So as you jump on the brake and you go to turn the car in, you get off the brake and turn the car in. If the car pops straight back up again, you're back to your, say, 6 or 8 mils of rake. So the car's what we're going to call turn flat into the corner. Whereas if you've got some rebound control in the shock absorber, you might find that you get 20 metres into the corner before the shock allows the car to come back to ride height again. So what that's doing is helping the car. The more rake the car's got, the better it will turn. And so you're moving that point at which it gets back to right height around the corner more.
So it depends if it's a fast corner track or a slow corner track on average, and you've got to pick a balance point between the types of corners you've got.
Absolutely.
So something like a Tiratonga would be quite different to a Timaru, or
Yep.
maybe,
No,
yeah,
not so much different, but
or Ruapuna maybe.
yeah, definitely different to Ruapuna. Yeah. I mean, Tiratonga, when you got that big long sweeper, some rebound control in the shock coming off that turn and getting it around in there, so you can get back on the power and not have to go rip on the throttle. Very important. So those are the areas where you would be concentrating on getting the car off that turn. And where's the next most important corner at Tiratonga? The hairpin. Well, not the what they call the hairpin, but the one coming on the front
Straight.
Yeah. Once again, hard braking corner, you've got to turn it in. Car will be cranked in pretty hard. Got to turn the car, get on the gas. What you don't want is to be going like this on the throttle, trying to get the car off the turn. So that's where the tuning and the shocks and the toes and some of the other settings just need a little bit of tinkering with sometimes. And sometimes it's driver induced. So your technique can make a massive difference to it. I mean, there's a real tendency in driving in general to stay on the brake too long. So you drive the car, brake the car right down into the corner. I mean, you're better to get out of the brake and turn it in, get back on the throttle. So the technique's pretty important. Yeah. We'll just touch on something else just before we move on, and that is that going right back to when we started talking about it, and we were talking about trying to have some sort of standard. If you're out there and you're driving around and you're doing X times around the circuit, and you go, I don't know how I'm going to go faster. There'll be one or two places on the track that you're not comfortable with. You might find, I mean, Ruapuna is a good example. There's 14 corners out there. You might say to yourself, well, yeah, I'm pretty happy at the sweeper, and I'm pretty happy there, and pretty happy there, pretty happy there. But that infield hairpin, can't get that right. You know, the sweeper coming back, I can't get that right. And I can't get the second S right, this drives me insane. Well, to be able to concentrate on those two, you have to be disciplined enough to do the other corners the same all the time, and not overdrive those and then try and improve at the other ones. So you're better to be 3 or 4 tenths slower, be consistent everywhere on the circuit, and then concentrate on two places or one place and try and just improve in those, and then you'll find the times will come, because the times will come out of the areas where you're slow, not out of the areas where you're fast. Does that make sense?
You've got more to gain on a bad corner than you have on a corner that you're doing reasonably well at.
Absolutely, yeah. Because what will happen is once you get those two right, then you'll feel more comfortable about it, and then you'll pick up half a hundredth in all 14 corners, because the car's more balanced, or you just feel more confident, or whatever. And you haven't got this bit in your mind that's going, well, I've got 2 places where I really need to improve. How am I going to do that? So you can just concentrate on it that way. It's a better way to think about it.
John, if you had your shock set for dry conditions when it turned wet, would you soften, rebound and bump similarly? Or
Generally, you would.
at both front,
About 50%.
at both front and rear?
Certainly the rear, not necessarily the front. It does depend on the car a little bit. I mean, I tend to not soften the front bar on a car like this in the rain. I mean, these cars would normally run 35 to 40 mils on the front bar in the dry, and I'd leave it there. I might even increase it in the rear in the rain, because they've got plenty of front grip anyway, and in the wet you're always struggling with the rear. So you want to keep the car fairly well propped up in the front. Struggle a little bit to get the car in, but the most important thing is to get off the turn. So if the car's really taily coming off the turn, you're going to be slow down the straight, and you're not going to be able to accelerate past somebody. So generally we would not get too carried away with the setup, especially if the car's very much in the window in the dry. It'll just be in the window but a bit slower and a bit slippery. But the rear's normally the bigger problem rather than the front.
Maybe change the back springs in the wet.
Yep. Yeah, you can do. Yeah. Given that you might have time constraints and you might not be able to do it in time, and you have to be.
You're talking about softening the springs, Mark.
We'll do a double run in the garage. If it's going to be wet, we'll change the back bar, put on the 94, put a real thin bar and go to a softer spring, and then we'd do our droop and everything, so we knew our exact measurement. Because it doesn't take long to change a spring on a shocker, and then if you know that if you got your measurements for your droop and everything, so you don't have to go and check all that again.
It just comes back to getting back to the datum thing again.
It makes a huge difference for string changes.
Yeah, it can. Yeah. You've got to have the resources to be able to do that too. So.
And the experience to do it quickly.
Yeah, but you can practice that.
George, you ever choose the ride height in the rain? You ever lift the car up and just...
Only if it is absolutely bucketing down.
So that we're not...
Yeah.
We probably won't be running in those conditions.
I mean, we have run in those conditions where we've run the cars at 50 mil, especially at Benfield when there's massive puddles and stuff. Yeah, lifting them up's not a bad idea.
So they don't aquaplane on the pan.
If you get caught with it, especially, you can lift the car up, and as long as you don't get too carried away, you end up standing the tyres up a bit, because as you lift it up, you'll lose some of the camber, which is a good thing as well. I mean, if you were looking for an absolute best wet setup, and you had the time, I mean, we've had the odd meeting at Manfield where it's been bucketing down from Thursday, and it's going to bucket through till the next Thursday. So, I mean, you try trying things, but you end up with some pretty weird things that do work, you know. I mean, we've had positive camber on cars at Manfield before today, and it just seems to work in the pissing rain. But the drivers had 2 days of driving in the pissing rain, so they start to feel more comfortable with it, and it gets back to that, is it the car or is it them? And quite often you go back to where you were at the beginning of the weekend and you go faster anyway, but it's the driver, not the car. I mean, they are pretty good cars. Okay, so we'll just move on quickly because the night's going to disappear. The next page really has got some points on it which we'll just quickly look at where we're going to do these adjustments. So, how to adjust the front ride height, or the ride height front and rear. So this car, good example, where would we do that?
Push rods.
Push rods, yeah. So they're left and right hand. It's good practice to put the left hand joints on the same end on both sides. So as a general rule, you'd always put the left hand ones on the inside. So then you always know which way to turn the push rod. I mean, it sounds simple, but it's, you know, a good thing. So interestingly enough, we've got push rods front and rear on this car. Anybody got any thoughts on the difference if you turn the front push rod one turn compared to turning the back one turn? Would the ride height adjust the same? I mean, the same threads, front and rear, 716 UNF. Pardon? The rear doesn't actually. The front will move 6 mil per turn, and the back will move 3. And it is just a function of the length of the wishbone and the angle. But they are things that you need to know on your particular car. I mean, if you've got a stealth, long wheelbase stealth like this, those are the numbers. The Spectrum, I'm not sure. 91 Van Diemen's similar. It's not exactly the same, similar, but they are things that change. So that's where you do the ride height adjustments on the push rods, and you don't do it on the springs.
But it will affect it. I know you're not adjusting it, but if you increase the preload on the spring, yeah, it will lift the car as well.
Only if there's droop.
Only if there's droop.
I mean, the rear, that's true. It's not true in the front if you've got no droop.
Yep.
Then that's pretty important to remember. Okay.
You don't want to raise the car for the rear by doing that.
No,
No.
because it's increasing the spring rate.
Spring rate, yeah.
Okay, caster. Where would we adjust the caster? Front and rear. Front's relatively easy. Top of the wishbone. First point of call would be these two here, top ones, because we've already set that one square. So this one needs to change a little bit because of some vagrancies in the pins or the upright or whatever to get that 20-degree difference correct. We'd wind this one in, wind that one out, or whatever's required. Okay. There's a bit of a balance as to if you start pushing this one out too far, you're going to lose the amount of adjustment you've got here. So I mean, it's nice to have 3 or 4 threads here to spare. But if you have set it all up and then you go, oh, I haven't got enough adjustment, you might have to take these off and wind that bottom one out a bit just to get it so that it all works. What about the rear? What are we going to do on the rear?
The rear bar on the bottom arm.
Well, you can do it on either one. You can do it on these inner ones here, because we're talking about tipping the upright this way. Now, if we go back just a little to the bump steer issue that we talked about, how do we adjust the bump steer in the rear? Okay. So the bump steer in the rear is a function of the caster in the rear upright, and in a car like this it would be 0 degrees, so that upright would be 0 to the floor tray. On a 91 Van Diemen it would be 6 degrees, and it's a long way different to these long wheelbase stealths. So you'll see on a 91 Van Diemen that upright is casted back a lot. Now, if for some reason, I mean the vagrancies of a broken bell housing or a slightly twisted chassis or whatever, you may find that this wheel has got some bumps there, and you can trim it out by changing the caster of the upright.
Why do you have cast on the back end?
It's a really good question actually, I don't know. It is a function of the amount of grip that's being produced by the geometry, but the real reason for it I've never really been able to get my head around, to be honest. I mean it's more to do with the bump steer in my opinion. So if